Hey guys, so I figured I'd make another editing video since the other one I had some requests to do some more. So this time I'm going to show you how I edit my seascape photos, and I'll use a piece of software called Lightroom. Everybody's pretty much familiar or at least have heard of Lightroom. Lightroom is said to be the simpler software in comparison to Photoshop, and while that's true, Lightroom is still a very powerful piece of software. So don't mistake Lightroom for being not as good as Photoshop. It really depends on what your objectives are. So the reason why I'm going to edit this image here is because I've shot that image with my old trusty Sony A58 and my Tokina 11-16 wide angle lens. And the reason why I wanted to show you that, I mean, even though it's a single card slot, it's a crop sensor camera, and it's Sony's very low level SOT line of SOTs. It's probably one of my first cameras that I've used when I started getting serious into photography, and I love this camera very much, and this is the camera I used to shoot this image here. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because just because you don't have a Sony A99 or full frame sensor or a Sony A99 Mark II, things of that nature, even if you have a low-end SOT or DSLR camera, or even mirrorless for that matter. I had a Sony NEX5N 16 megapixel camera. While I couldn't print in large formats, it still produced excellent image quality, including even with the kit lens on my Sony NEX5N. The quality was very good. It was perfect for social media. And then you find yourself upgrading later in the future. But I just wanted to mention that because the Sony A58, although it's a low-end camera, it can still produce wonderful images. But the images that it does produce needs to be processed like anything else. And so I'm going to show you how to do that in Lightroom. So let's check it out. You're going to still want to shoot the photo in RAW. RAW is very important. If you shoot the photo in JPEG, there's no way you're going to be able to recover the data within the photo. And basically, when I say data is the actual image within the computer. It's just data. And when we use things like Lightroom and Photoshop, it's manipulating that data. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to straighten this image. Now this image is going to have a lot more work simply because there's a lot more to do. So as soon as you do that, that's basic. You're going to want to straighten out the image. The next thing you want to do is you want to change the white balance. Now again, if you shoot in RAW, you can change the white balance in post. If you shoot in JPEG, that's not going to be possible. So just keep that in mind. Shooting RAW is very important because RAW will give you the ability to manipulate the data a lot better because the data is actually there. Once you compress it into JPEG, the data is gone, and so manipulating it makes it that much more difficult. So for this, we're gonna click on we're gonna select cloudy as the white balance just to make it easier. You have sliders here that you can adjust, but again, I just want to make this video as easy as possible. So we select cloudy here. The next thing you want to do is up the exposure just a little bit so you can kind of see what's going on. Then what you want to do, just moving down this these slider lists, is I'm going to decrease the highlights here. As you can already see, it brings in the sky very nicely. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is increase the shadows, and by doing so, it brings up all of the a lot of the detail down in the bottom here. Don't get intimidated by all the settings here. All you have to remember is by default, or not by default, but as a process, you should always select remove chromatic aberration. That's normally the purple fringing that you get around the image. That's just, even if your image doesn't have it, that's what I select anyway. And then you want to select your lens, and in this case it's the Tokina, and it was the 11-16 millimeter f2.8. Next thing you want to do is pick up your graduated filter here, and you just want to select the top portion. Maybe about this wide is good. The reason why I wanted this wide is because that's how much fall off you're going to get from the changes you make to the changes that are not made, if that makes any sense. Okay, but you'll see in a second. We want to drop the exposure down just a tad bit, maybe about half a stop to about 3/4 of a stop. Actually, this one I'm going to go maybe a full stop. And then you want to bring down the highlights just a little bit once again. Now the image looks dark now, but it's okay because the top is dark and the bottom is dark. From here, we're just going to increase the exposure just a tad bit. Now already that looks a lot better. So we're going to go before, after. Okay, so already it's starting to look good. So what we want to do is we want to select our brush here. And then we want to make sure that everything is reset. And we want to just increase clarity, maybe about, let's just say 49. We can always decrease it if it's too much. And all we want to do is let's make our brush a little bit smaller. Now we want to stay away from the water. Okay, so anytime there's, you know, rocks and things like that, we want to just kind of make that, want to just brush it on there. Okay, and we have some rock over here. I don't know if you guys can see it in the video, but there's water going over it, but we want to just make sure that the rocks stand out from the water. Okay, because if it's rocks that are standing outside of the water, we want to just make sure that it's sharp. Okay, so I think it's a little bit too much clarity, so I'm gonna bring it down just a little bit. And just like I say in my other videos, you want to just do minor changes, because after all those changes that you make, when you combine them all into one, it becomes a huge change. So you don't want to do big changes. If you have to do a little bit one time and then a little bit more later, then that's better to do than everything at one time at once. And all we're gonna do is select the brush again. We're gonna bring down the clarity, and then we're just gonna bring up the exposure just a little bit. This will allow us to prevent from any type of over burning of the photo, because if you like the way the darkness looks now, all we have to do is brighten up the areas that we need to be brightened. So the only thing we're gonna do is we're gonna brighten things like the water here. Okay, and my computer is a little bit laggy right now, and it's probably because I'm running the software that actually is recording this video. And I'll be honest with you right now, this is the new 2016 MacBook Pro, so it's definitely not a hardware issue, more of probably a software issue. Okay, so now that I've brightened that area up, maybe, as you can see, I can make adjustments on the fly, which makes Lightroom really good. So too bright is not good because it's going to be too obvious. And then that looks pretty good to me, so I'm just going to hit done right there. And that looks good. And then I want to select my brush again, and instead of clarity, I'm just going to add some sharpness to make sure that the foreground is nice and sharp, just where the rocks peek out of the water there. All right, so this is already looking good, and it was basically a few minutes that we've actually worked on this photo. I like my clouds nice and soft, except for this area here, which could have a little bit more clarity. However, again, very small, very small. We're talking like maybe 7, and all I'm gonna do is just this bunch of clouds over here that's all bunched up. Okay, that's it. You probably won't be able to see it on the monitor itself right now. All right, guys, so that's basically it. That's how easy it was to edit this photo. Very simple, not much to do. Lightroom is, again, a very powerful piece of software, and it's a non-destructive piece of software, so you can go back, adjust the sliders at any time you want. So in any case, this is the process photo. This was before and after. Before and after. Big difference, pretty cool stuff. In fact, you know what? I see something that I want to do out there right now. Let me just reset my settings there. Let me just go a little bit more clarity, and I'm gonna up the contrast just a little bit. And the reason is, you see how the sun is right here. Okay, that's pretty obvious, and you have a lot of nice reflection going off the water. I want to be able to enhance that here by increasing. There we go. There we go. That's much better. And maybe I'll do some over here. So that's about it. Super simple, super easy. You can use SLTs or DSLRs that are low-end cameras, such as this one, and you know, get out there, shoot, load it up in Lightroom, edit it, and just be amazed on how powerful Lightroom can be. So thank you very much to all my subscribers for hanging in there. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button if you wanted to, and if you like this video, hit that like button, because then I would greatly appreciate that. And I definitely hope to see you in the next video. See ya.